of forgotten to pick the camera up and just kind of got after it. This truck is on, I wouldn't say kind of a time schedule, sensitive schedule, but it is at the same time. It took a lot longer for the parts to come in for this thing than it was supposed to. And so I ended up having to start on other projects. And so when the parts finally came in, I still had to finish those other projects before I could start on this one. And so it pushed it back. But anyways, I'll show you kind of where we're at, and you'll see some footage of putting some of the stuff on that's on the engine right now. I didn't record an intro to the video prior to recording some of the footage, not that much, but putting the intake manifold on, that type of thing. But so yeah, so I'll try and make this quick so there's less rambling. So we've got the intake manifold on it. Oil cooler's in it. The high pressure oil pump's bolted in. The STC fitting is on. Everything's all sealed up, good, all that stuff. Got the IPR valve in it. We got the up pipes set in there. They're not finalized. Basically, the way that you put up pipes in it, it doesn't matter if it's these or if it's any other kind of up pipe, if they have been unbolted completely. The way that you do it is you get them in and you leave them loose at the manifolds, and then you get the turbo in it and you get the up pipe seated to the back of the turbo, put your V-band on, and get it tight enough so that the up pipes won't move, like, it won't pull out of the turbo, but loose enough, basically just loose enough so you can still spin the V-band that goes on there. So, and then once you're done with that, on a normal set of up pipes, you would just go down to the bottom bolts at the manifolds and tighten those up. And then once those are tight, come back up here and tighten your V-band. On these, I think the best way that it's gonna be is get it, made it up to the turbo, get this, snugged up so it's not gonna go anywhere, and then tighten up these V-bands. And then once these are tight, go down and tighten up the manifolds, and then come back and tighten up this V-band. I think that's gonna be the best course of action with that. I will touch on the up pipes real quick. I am very happy so far with the quality of the up pipes. They were very easy to install. Just everything to this point has went together very nicely. Nothing is, poor quality. The welds are all good. Everything fits really good, all that stuff. The only thing that I have question in my mind is it looks like there's less clearance, and I may be wrong, but it looks like there's less clearance between the up pipe and where the down pipe's going to go. So they're BD up pipes, so I would have to imagine that they're going to fit amazing even with the up or the down pipe in there. So we'll see. But overall, very, very good quality. I have noticed too that they seem to sit up, like the actual collector up here. If you can see that, the actual collector up here seems to sit up a lot higher than the stock ones do, giving you a lot more room underneath the collector, which is kind of nice. But fell off my stool here. So the only other thing really to note, or the two things to note, are so back here on the high pressure oil pump housing, back at the back here, there is, so right down there, the back cover of the engine bolts to the block, basically. And there is a split, obviously, between them. And I don't know if you're going to be able to see it right there. You can see some silicone, some silver silicone right here, right next to that bolt. So you want to put a little, basically dab, I would say, about that long over the top of that crack right there on both sides. Don't put silicone all the way along the back. Don't do anything like that. Just put a couple little beads about like that on either side, and that'll seal it up. It won't leak. It'll be good. Don't go ham. Don't put half a tube on it. Nothing like that. I've seen it all. Trust me. Just don't. It makes getting it all back apart and getting the silicone off, it makes it really hard. You end up getting silicone in the engine, which is never good, because there's no good way to keep that stuff out, not fully. So anyways, the only other trick with this is there's an O-ring right here that seals to the cover. It's on the high pressure oil pump itself. Throw some grease on that because it makes getting this cover on a lot easier. And then also put your, this is the J tube, I think is what they call it. This is for the EGR solution, let's say. And it's easier to put this on the manifold before the manifold goes in the truck. I also like to get different silicone hose. It's 5/8 silicone hose. Most of your auto parts stores will have this 5/8 silicone heater hose. If they don't, 3/4 inch will work. You just have to make sure you get it good and tight. It is too big for it, so it will work in a pinch if that's what the only stuff you have. I also like to replace these clamps because these clamps tend to be kind of cheap and junk, and they'll strip out when you go to tighten them up good. I am out of better clamps right now, so I'm going to try and see if these will work. It's not the end of the world if they won't. I'll just slide the hose back and pull these off, but it's late in the day. And I wanted to get the intake manifold on it, so I'll see if these will work. And if they'll tighten up good and I feel confident in them, I will leave them. If not, then I won't. That's pretty much it. I think that's all I'm going to do for today. I'll include some of the other footage tomorrow, but I think that physically today I'll be done with the project. I got to go home and take care of some other stuff. So, yeah, so we'll see you guys tomorrow. I got the alternator on it. The thing, it needed a new belt, so I went ahead and threw a new belt on it. I got the FICM on it. I got this intercooler pipe on it. And then we started on the coolant filter. So this coolant filter is not one that I normally use. It's a diesel site kit. And this is something the customer brought to me. He said he bought it a while ago, and it just never got put on the truck. So he asked if I could put it on. I said, yeah, sure, no problem. If you'll notice, it's got a 90 right here. This is all I had laying around the shop in that size. I would have liked to have done a 45 instead of a 90, but it is what it is. So, like I say, so this is a diesel site kit. And when I opened the box, I realized that it was very obvious it wasn't a newer kit. So I don't know what diesel site uses for their bracketry nowadays, but this bracket is terrible, and I hope they don't use it anymore. It slips. There's a notch in the bracket over here, and it slips up into the rubber right there for the intercooler mount, and then it's got a bolt that goes through this tube. And so you got to unbolt the whole intercooler and like lean it, back, and then get in there with a wrench to be able to tighten that bolt up. It's kind of a pain, but whatever. The other thing that I noticed, and that's why this has a 90 in it, is with the straight piece in here, it was about the end of the fitting was about right here. And so how am I going to get a hose on it? I'll put a hose on it, sure, and then it's going to sit there and rub on the intercooler pipe and rub a hole in it. So that's where the 90 came in, one, I feel like this looks a little better, and then also it's going to avoid it from rubbing on that intercooler pipe. I'm glad I put the intercooler pipe in before I ran the hose here, because that would have sucked. So come to find out, I looked on the box that he brought that in, which is the box that it originally came in. This kit was actually shipped to him on the 2nd of March, 2010. So this kit is actually 11 years old. And I remember back in the day, around that time frame, some of these companies were doing weird stuff with the coolant filter kits. It's like they hadn't figured out what their proper, kit should be, and mounting stuff. And so if you look at this is a Sinister kit. And if you can tell, so the bracket does a 90 right here, and then it's got like a little finger. I don't know if you're going to be able to see that. Let's see if I can get you an angle of it. So it's got that little finger down there that goes into the intercooler bracket. Sorry for the lighting. I can actually tell that it's flickering around. But anyways, it goes into the bracket right there. And this style here for the last probably 6 or 7 years has been like that's what everybody uses. I think like probably 99% of the companies out there that make coolant filter kits for 6 liters use that style bracket. It's been a while since I've worked or I've used a kit or seen a kit that was not that style. So anyway, so I thought that was kind of funny that it's, sorry, I'm moving around, I'm adjusting the camera here. But I thought it was kind of interesting that kit's 11 years old. But he said he's owned the truck since it was new, so it doesn't really surprise me that much. But to me, it's amazing that he hasn't lost it in that 11 years. I would have lost it. Anyways, so other than that, it seems like a fairly decent kit. I'd assume that like back then they were using the filter heads for a bunch of different things and whatnot. So the only other thing that I really don't like about it, which I would assume they probably changed since then, because a lot of kits back then were the same way, is it just comes with just a roll of hose and regular old barb fittings that you use clamps on. Almost all of your kits you get nowadays, the hose is crimped with the fittings already on the end. So that having just regular old hose clamps and stuff can be a leak point. So anyways, moving on from that, I've rambled on too long on that. Basically at this point, really all we have left to do is I need to drain the oil, put new oil in it. I need to put the exhaust on and tighten up the up pipes and just, put everything back together up here, put the intake and the coolant bottle and all that kind of stuff in. But I'm going to go ahead and now that I've got the coolant filter to this point, I'm going to get underneath the truck, tighten up the up pipes, and then put the exhaust on, and then kind of like say come back up here and finish up everything up here. So I'm going to get after it. I'm probably not going to show you guys the exhaust because it's really hard to, especially since I'm doing it on the ground, it's really hard to actually show you, what's going on. So But yeah, so I will get back with you guys here in a little bit. As you can see, it is done. I'll try and make this short and sweet. I decided I think it's like 6:30 right now. I decided since it was still, like, instead of just bailing out of here at 5 o'clock, when there was only a little bit more work left to do on the truck, I'd stay a little bit later, and then that way I don't have to come in early tomorrow morning. Today is Friday, by the way. I gotta come in tomorrow morning, and this week has been a mess, so things have not went the way that they were supposed to, par for the course, but you know, whatever. So got everything completely done. The only thing to note is the coolant filter. I hope that they change this design, because I put the filter head and everything on without the filter on it, and the only way to get the filter in there, I had to like grab a hold of the bracket and pull it up, and then take my other hand and kind of like shove this plastic thing down and slip the filter down in there. So that's kind of a pain, but whatever. So it ended up coming out decent. The plastic guard here is cracked, and so I kind of zip tied it back together with using the hose and stuff. I always like to zip tie the hose to this cover if they have it. If not, then I'll zip tie it to the inner shroud, just because I think it looks a lot cleaner and nicer. The only other thing that I came across was, so for future reference, not for myself, but for anybody that's going to do this. So if you're going to like build a home exhaust, which there's nothing wrong with that. Like this, they did a really good job on this exhaust. Like this is actually fairly impressive that they did as well as they did. And they even went as far as to cut the factory hangers off the exhaust and reuse them with the new exhaust. But what they did was they removed, there's a hanger about right here, which is the back of the muffler. And it's a 2-hanger deal, and you know, whatever. And then you've got the back one back here that's the tailpipe hanger. Well, what they did was they ended up just unbolting those 2 hangers and taking them off the truck. Well, so they were long gone. So I got underneath there and got the front half of the exhaust all, you know, get going, and then I get back here to hang the back one, and there's no hangers. So, so like say, if you're gonna do that type of thing, just leave the hangers on the truck, so that way if the truck ever does get a full exhaust put back on it, they're there. So luckily, I have personally, it's one of my personal trucks, have a truck out back that it's probably never going to get the back half of an exhaust ever put on, and so I just went ahead and stole those brackets off of it for this thing, just in the name of getting this thing done. If I'm sure those brackets aren't that expensive or hard to find, so if I ever do want to put a tailpipe on that truck, then I'll just do that. But but yeah. So anyways, other than that, the only other thing that I will note is this truck has a B&W gooseneck hitch in it, and with the B&W gooseneck hitch, they send you I don't know how well you're going to be able to see it, but they send you a drop bracket for that hanger right there, because the factory tailpipe, the way that the bend over the axle is, it sits up too high, and so it hits the gooseneck hitch bracketry, and so they send you that drop bracket. Well, at least with this kit, this is a 4-inch MBRP kit. At least with this kit, the rear hanger, you can't get the rear hanger down that far, so you have to remove that little drop bracket. It doesn't hit anything, it fits nicely, everything's kosher. So, but other than that, like I say, everything's good to go. All I gotta do in the morning is come in and test drive it. I had to put a new brake controller in it as well. The brake controller went bad. But other than that, she's good to go. So we will see you guys on the next one. I'm not sure what the next one's going to be, but we'll see you.